Hey guys, I'm Amaroth, and in this video tutorial I would like to address a topic which was requested multiple times, and that's a seabed. So let's talk about seabed. The first thing about seabed is that it's actually quite similar to normal forest. We've got some sort of quite, well, to some extent flat area. We've got some green textures on it, and we've got some kelps and some special objects. In general, texturing and spawning models on seabed is the same as spawning of forest. So if you can create a well-looking forest, this video probably won't give you too many bright ideas. But as this was requested, I wanted to talk about seabed. There is one important thing which is different from normal forest environment, and that's the shear size usually, because in this case we've got 25 ADTs, and only one of those ADTs is actually a land. We've got this island on one ADT, and we've got 24 ADTs of seabed. So it's very unlikely that you want to make a seabed which is as detailed as a land, because that would be just too time consuming. If you have some sort of map where it's only a lake, for example, or you've got a river, or you've got just a tiny piece of sea, and most of the map is actually a land or a continent or whatever, well, then you can think about making very detailed seabed and coral reefs and so on. But in my case, I've got a very huge space to worry about, and I don't want to spend basically maybe even hundreds of hours making very detailed seabed about 1 ADT of land. That's just not possible. So what I usually do, most of my maps actually don't have very seabed at all. I usually just keep this, just a sand and nothing more. And alright, this does a job. I usually don't make maps for money, or lately I have been created some natives for money, okay, but I'm not paid for this, so I need to make maps in my spare time, and really I can't afford making seabed. So you may completely omit seabed, make just empty plain like I have done here, and place water on it, and that's it. You don't need to worry about it more. But if you want to be a little bit more fancy, you want a seabed, or even maybe you want to have some quests here, you want to send players there, you actually expect players to be swimming in water and so on. In that case, you may want to probably make something on the seabed. So model it a little bit, texture it a little bit, spawn some models. So let's talk about that. The first step is the same as with forest. You just need to pick some textures and some models you will use and find a correct scale for them. So let's pick Hugo. I have already set my scales here, and you can see that those models are reasonably big. Well, those are quite huge, but doesn't matter. This is reasonable. Yet another thing you need to worry about is water depth here. That's something what you don't have to worry about in forest, because when you've got a forest, you don't have any limit. You can have as high trees as possible. It doesn't really matter. In sea, well, in my case, I've got quite a shallow sea here, which means that those kelps are actually now above water. I don't want to have this. So you need to worry about how deep your sea is. So I've got deeper place here prepared like this, and I've got enough space for my kelps here. So just take a look around and really make sure that your sea is deep enough, or otherwise you just need to make it deep enough. So lower terrain, stuff like that. That's something what I would need to do here, for example. So let's lower it here. Let's prepare it for now. And like I said, I've got 24 ADTs to worry about. That's a lot. So I need some very quick, very simple style. So I will just pick this one texture. I won't use more textures. I will just make this with one texture. I don't need more. I need to have a quick and simple spray size, maybe 1.4, something like that, or 1.6. Get higher spray pressure, so it's quicker. And now really time to start drawing something very quick, something very simple. Some generic shape of my wheat flake or kelp flake or whatever. I will probably not I probably won't speak about wheat because you would just throw me about that. So something like this. Now I can make some blank space here, some hole or whatever, like this. You don't need to fill everything with kelp, okay? So you've got empty space here. Let's create another here. So I'm creating blank spaces here, and this yet again helps me with making this easier and quicker to do, okay? So some spray, let's turn spray off, and try just finish this very quickly in a very simple manner. Something what can be done on 25 ADTs and won't take hundreds of hours. Let's rise it, because right now it's flat, it's completely flat, that's not very good. So always raising the terrain to make terrain correspond with texturation. I've talked about this in both rock and grass tutorials. Texturation always needs to match that geometry. So you got raised terrain where kelp is, and your lower terrain around it, probably like this. And now let's just polish it with blur tool. And that's it. We are done with terrain. We don't need to get more fancy. If you want to, you can get more fancy and use more textures, for example. Go more into detail. You can do that if you have time for that. I don't. So let's just make it like this. Some objects, so we want random rotation, random scale. We don't want random tilt because random tilt on kelps usually tends to look quite weird. And we can just start spamming models here. Just random spamming. Yet again, I don't have time for being more fancy. I don't have time for going too much into detail here. So really something very simple like this. And that's all you need to do. If you want to make very simple and quick seabed, this is just good enough, I would say. And to be honest, even Blizzard isn't getting more fancy with this. Even Blizzard is making seabeds like this everywhere where players aren't really expected to go underwater. Take a look around Northrend, for example, into seas. This is what you will find there. Some very simple basic style like this. And so on. And this is even enough probably. I don't really want to. You don't have to do much more. And maybe time for some coral reef. When you want to make coral reefs, it's yet again a matter of time. If you have a lot of time, if you don't have a huge seabed, you can go a lot into detail. You can create some rocks. You can spawn those models on those rocks. You can toy around with their positioning like I'm doing now. So I'm using different scales, different tails. Yes, that's really great, but guys, we got 24 IDTs. We can't afford being really going into detail like this. So this is just fine and done. You don't need to do more. You can do more, you don't have to. That's the point of this video. And the only tricky thing is marking some spaces out. For example, I've got a parallel here, and let's say that a quest giver or important place is supposed to be here. Some sort of quest objective, for example, whatever. So this is a bar, it is unique object, it is important. I want to make it stand out. So what I have done here, as you can see, I've placed it on a raised terrain. So I've created rock, and I have made basically a blank space around it. You can see those generic calves or corals. What is it? Those are actually corals. So we can see those corals around, but here is a place where no coral is. I could have spawned corals like this, but I don't want to because they would obscure this pearl. So now here is a hole basically in those corals. I will continue with corals here and like this probably. So this is a place where no corals are, which immediately catches eye. There are those tube worms, and those tube worms aren't pointed towards, water, towards upwards, but they are pointing like this. They are all growing from the same spot. They are all growing from this center point. This yet again marks this center spot as important. Something is here. All those tube worms here are helping to highlight this spot, this pearl here. It is raised, it is in the center of something, those tube worms are growing out of it. And what I could have done here as well is placing some light, some sort of light rays which are coming down on that pearl like this, in this manner, on some sort of spotlight that would highlight this pearl a lot as well. So this is just a quick idea how to highlight some sort of object on seabed, because when you've got seabed you obviously have lots of objects which have completely different shapes, completely different colors. It's hard to make something stand out on seabed. It is way harder than making it stand out in, for example, forest. Because if you've got forest and you've got basically a space or place where all flowers are just green, everything is just green and brown. When you put something like this there, it immediately stands out because it has completely different shape, completely different color. Everyone can see this. But when you've got place like this, where you've got multiple objects, multiple colors, multiple shapes, it's hard to place here something which will stand out. So marking it out like this can help you a lot. So that's it, guys. The last thing, living environment, that applies especially to this. So I have on purpose made a living environment video before this because seabed, that's a place where living environment is very important. Don't they are quite bugged, these models in Nogi. They don't work as they should. Okay, it doesn't matter. But use fish models, use sharks, use NPCs, use whatever you can, but use moving models. Make that space look living. What I really love to use are kelps which are moving, like this one. Okay, for example, this one is moving, and really I love models which move and which are animated, especially on seabed, because you've got this huge empty space, and yet it is living. There are many things which are living there. It is supposed to be in that way, that it is living place, and moving parts are really helping that. So if you want to make some very good immersion, very good feeling which is coming from your scenery, from your environment, use moving stuff in general, moving animated objects, and place some fishes or whatever, some starfishes, I don't know, whatever you can find, but stuff which has animations, which is moving and which is so living, because that will help a lot to make your scenery look in general way better. So that's it, guys. I hope this was useful for you, and as always, happy modeling.